I live in Ladera, Inglewood area, and I lived there for like 4 years, and I didn't know my neighbors, and I didn't want to know my neighbors. I'm living here in Africa in a black community, and I am alienating myself. Why? When I was in Kenya, all I wanted to do was to connect with African Americans, but here I am now in their midst, and I'm like, what is this thing?
Perez Owino is the director of a hard-hitting documentary, Bound, a film addressing the little-known tensions existing between Africans and African Americans. The film uses testimonials to expose the seldom discussed ways that Africans and African Americans view each other, and looks at the culture's shared history of African colonialism and African American enslavement, laying bare their effects and how these have divided and bound Africans and African Americans forever. Speaking at the New York premiere of her film at the African Diaspora International Film Festival this weekend, Perez Owino explains what compelled her to do the documentary.
This film is born out of my own experience. The little understanding I had of the enslavement of African people, and then coming to the United States and missing the descendants of those people and wanting to really reconnect the lost Africans with the Africans on the continent.
By the way, you should let folks know where you're from.
Oh, I'm from Kenya, which is on the east coast of Africa, which also actually has a slave fortress right there in Mombasa, which they took Africans and sent them to the east.
Usually you hear about Goree, you never hear about Kenya or East African slave fortresses.
Yes. Yeah, because it's really, that's one of the genesis places where it started with the Arab slave trade, which, was how it all became a booming business. It began with the Arabic slave trade. Then it evolved and became something bigger than that. But off the coast of Africa, we did have fortresses where they took enslaved Africans.
Perez says she faced two major challenges when making the film.
The first challenge was, of course, the immense amount of material, because our history is so immense, our story is so immense. We keep forgetting that we're a race of people. We are over 1 billion strong, which means we have a tremendous history. So you have to read all these books and then figure out from all these materials which pebble are you going to pick to throw in the lake from all the pebbles that you're looking at. And the other thing was just getting a group of Africans and African Americans who are willing to get into a room together and just have a conversation. And once you get them and they're in the room, they ended up enjoying each other.
I come from Miami, Florida. I'm African American.
Danae Carter is a co-producer of Bound.
And I saw people coming from the Caribbean, particularly Haiti, as they came to Miami. As a child of the 80s and 90s, I saw the unfair treatment. And then I expanded that to people from the continent. Well, how did African Americans treat people directly from Africa? I knew it wasn't always great. And I knew within my culture, we've said some damaging things. So when me and Perez met 4 years ago, we got into deep conversations about our perspectives, about our experiences. And through this process, we grew together to have the story that has been birthed through her now. It definitely went through many, many, many reincarnations. The script that has actually been produced now is not the same script that was first produced. We did start very wide, very expansive. And the story began to tell itself. I truly believe, and I can even say this for her as well, the ancestors truly guided this. They wanted certain things talked about. And in the final product, it had to be shown the way it needed to be shown. Many of the things that are in the final product was not in the first inception. But again, it was guided by and through the ancestors. So that way we can say the ancestors said, hey, we need this healing, we need this to be seen in this way.
Journalist Ernest Owens, who moderated the discussion after the film showing, says the release of Bound is groundbreaking.
We're finally opening up visible dialogue and public dialogue through cinema, which I think is very impactful, and media as well, to really hone people in and make people excited about really realizing that, people of color don't stop in America, but it extends to Africa, to the Caribbeans, and to beyond. And I think Bound did a really good job of reminding us of our connections. Not our differences, but our connections, and let us know what makes us unique and what brings us together.
Let me tell you the highest compliment anybody gave me.
Director Perez Owino.
This is a friend of mine who watched half of the documentary and paused it and called me. And she said, I watched this and you managed to make me empathize with the African American experience. My job was done. That was it. Because if you could get the other side, to see the other side of the story, your job is done.
For the morning show, I'm Dred Scott Keys.